The tragic demise of Edward II, a tale of power, betrayal, and forbidden love. In the captivating chronicles of Edward II, we uncover a world where love knows no boundaries, even as society grapples with its limitations. Edward II, a monarch unafraid to defy convention, delighted in the affections of both men and women. Such liberties were frowned upon by the Catholic Church, despite his divine status as king. Piers Gaveston was Edward's initial beloved, until his unfortunate beheading at the hands of jealous nobles in 1312. Following this tragic loss, other male suitors came and went. However, it was Hugh Lee Despencer, son of the Earl of Winchester, who would wield his influence recklessly, exploiting his closeness to the king to amass immense power over vast territories in southern Wales. In a realm where land equalled might, Hugh emerged as the indomitable force. No one was safe, as even a private conversation between Despencer and the king could strip an individual of everything that they owned. A wise ruler would have anticipated the brewing rebellion, but Edward failed to grasp the imminent danger, and by 1321 the nobility's forces amassed outside the walls of London, their siege unyielding yet paralysed by their fear of Hugh's wrath. Inside the city the king found himself unable to compel the dispersal of his besiegers, yet unwilling to meet their primary demand, the removal of Hugh. It was Queen Isabella who would break the impasse, publicly imploring the king to exile Hugh for the sake of the kingdom. Edward had no intention of abandoning his royal companion, but the Queen's intervention granted him a reprieve. Once again, the Queen would play a pivotal role in justifying Edward's retaliation. Under the guise of a journey to Canterbury, she diverted her path to Leeds Castle, home of a prominent rebel noble, Lord Badlesmere, and requested lodging. Lady Badlesmere, acting in her husband's absence, refused to accommodate the Queen, sparking a fabricated outrage. Isabella commanded her guards to force their entry, leading to a clash with the castle garrison that claimed the lives of several guards. King Edward now possessed the moral high ground, a crucial advantage in quelling the rebellion. The people regarded the Queen as a virtuous and wronged wife, and honourable men rallied to defend her honour as dictated by chivalrous ideals. With support dwindling among the rebels, Edward systematically dismantled their leadership. Meanwhile, much to Isabella's dismay, Hugh returned to the fold, fueled by the elixir of vengeance. Unleashed and unconstrained, he instilled fear even in the highest ranks of aristocracy. Scores of nobles were stripped of their possessions, and in 1324, when Isabella's own brother, the King of France, threatened Edward's holdings in Gascony, the monarch retaliated by ordering the arrest of all French aliens in England and Wales. Seizing the opportunity to settle personal scores, Hugh subjected Isabella to house arrest and forcibly separated her from their children. As she witnessed her husband's apathy, her feelings towards him transformed from long-suffering mistrust to an unquenchable violent contempt. In the wake of a disastrous war, Edward found himself desperate for peace, turning to his wife to beseech her intervention with her brother for a resolution. Little did he expect that she would agree, and swiftly departing for France and skillfully negotiating a peace treaty. However, Isabella defied Edward's orders to return to England, instead asserting control over the heir to the English throne, their son Edward III. In France she encountered Roger Mortimer, the first Earl of March, who had previously rebelled against Edward in ill-fated Despencer wars. Together they commenced preparation for an invasion. With a meagre force composed of a handful of mercenaries and a few thousand disgruntled English defenders, Isabella correctly anticipated that nobility, fearing Hugh's ambitions, would rally behind her if she promised to replace him with their own son as the new king, Edward III. Landing on the shores of the East Anglia in September 1326, they encountered minimal resistance on their path to London. Their progress was so swift that news of an invasion reached Edward just in the nick of time, throwing him into a state of panic. Laden with gold-filled saddlebags, Edward and Hugh raced westward, heading toward Hugh's stronghold in South Wales. At Shepstow, they secured passage on a ship, hoping to escape to Ireland. However, unfavourable winds thwarted their plans, and they spent 5 agonising days adrift in the Severn estuary, before reluctantly docking in Cardiff. Swiftly making their way to Cefele, one of the most impregnable castles in England and Wales, they were greeted by devastating news. Hugh's father, entrusted with the defence of Bristol against Isabella, had met a grisly end, and his body left to be devoured by dogs. The message was crystal clear. When captured, Hugh would face a similar horrific fate. Edward himself could hardly ignore the grim reality faced by all deposed kings. They met their demise without exception. If Edward had harboured any illusions about the direness of this situation, they were swiftly shattered when none of his orders to defend the South Wales against the Queen were heeded. With no hope of mounting a counter-attack, it became a matter of time before they would be trapped within the castle walls, besieged by Isabella's forces and driven to surrender through starvation. A game-changer was desperately needed. Under the cover of darkness, Edward and Hugh clandestinely slipped out of the castle and sought refuge in Neath Abbey. In these reverently religious times, they hoped that a clergyman of sufficient stature could mediate with the Queen. However, the erosion of the king's authority had progressed to such an extent that not only a personal appeal from Edward himself held any chance of success. While it remains uncertain whether the Abbot of Neath managed to meet with Queen Isabella, he did convey a message indicating Edward's whereabouts. Realising that their position had been compromised, the abbot sent word back to the abbey. Edward and Hugh hastily departed the abbey, racing back towards Caerphilly, endeavouring to conceal their movements in the rugged valleys, following in the footsteps of countless Welsh rebels before them. Edward and Hugh stood on the precipice of descending into the depths of the Rhondda Valley, poised across the formidable River Taff at Pontypridd and ascend the opposing side. From there, Caerphilly lay spread out beneath them, an enticing destination. Alternatively, they could have embarked on a daring boat ride, leading them straight into the castle's moat. However, fate had other plans, as a restless hunting party closed in on them. Among a tempestuous Welsh rainstorm, King Edward II's reign reached its climactic end, the desperate chase echoing with the sound of baying dogs. Hugh Despencer's demise was swift and merciless, and in the ensuing days he faced the horrifying fate of being hanged, drawn and quartered at Hereford. As Isabella watched the spectacle unfold, she relished the macabre entertainment, savouring a hearty meal. Meanwhile, Edward II, like all deposed kings before him, met a similar fate. Confined within the confines of Berkeley Castle, he succumbed to persuasion, ultimately abdicating his throne, vanishing into obscurity. Legend has shrouded his final moments with a haunting tale, recounting a brutal end where a red-hot poker was said to have been thrust into his anus, sealing his tragic destiny.